paint a picture that I'm a little angel that's never had debt, because I've made some of probably the worst decisions of anybody that I know. We haven't hit rock bottom yet, so I apologize in advance. It might sound like my mindset had changed enough for me to make that happen, but it really hadn't. Hi guys, I'm sweating a little bit today because we're about to put myself on blast. You guys see me cash stuffing every week, and you see how I do my budget, and it may look like everything is super put together, and it's so much better than it was, but I definitely want to bring you through the bad decisions that I've made, because there's a lot of them. And yeah, eventually I ended up in a place where I had €1,000 of debt for every year that I'd been alive. I just thought it would be good to go through this with you guys, show you how my journey with debt started off, bring you through all the bad decisions I made, and if it helps somebody not make the same decisions, or if it makes you feel a bit better that there's somebody else out there that's made the same bad decisions as you and has come out the other side, then that's also really helpful. I've heard a lot of information online where people say that, financial literacy is the reason that people make bad decisions, because they don't understand what they're doing. And though that may be true in some cases, I want to make it clear that being financially literate doesn't automatically exempt you from making bad decisions. It's the same as you may know you're in a bad relationship, but that doesn't mean you leave. You know what I mean? So I am financially literate. I've worked in financial services for years. I'm a financial advisor. I cannot be much more financially literate than I am, and I still made probably some of the worst debt decisions out of anybody I know, even though I was probably the most financially literate out of my friends. A game of want and will. So when I say will, I mean willpower. That what do you want from life? What are you willing to do to get where you want to go? And for me, for years, all I wanted was instant gratification, until it got to a point, and this was a changing point for me, that I realized that a lot of the anxiety I felt around money and what it used to be was not earning enough, that was never going to go away, because every time I earned more, my lifestyle would creep up with it. The point where I was on good wages and I was still anxious about what I was earning, because my lifestyle would always outweigh how much I earned, and I never wanted to peel back my lifestyle. And as a result, this is what got me where I was. I'm not now. I will explain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out pen and paper, which we never do, and I apologize in advance for my horrible handwriting, but I want to take you through the timeline of how we got from A to Z. So where do we start ratting myself out from? So I think the best place to start is my first ever loan, because this kind of set up my mindset for debt and how I thought I should use debt to my advantage. So it starts off with me being 20. So I was in a bad relationship. I had a chance to leave the country with my friends just for a holiday to go to Spain. The holiday was planned without me. I wasn't supposed to be going. And then very last minute, I decided I wanted to go, but I didn't have any sort of savings or anything. I was 20, had never thought about saving. And I thought, what if I get a loan to go? So I'm going to put my ages over here. So at age 20, I went to a company called Provident, which are a very, very high interest rate loan company that will give loans to people that most banks wouldn't support. So for me, being 20 with no real credit history, they were willing to give me €600 to go on my holiday, which they would then call to the house to collect the repayments of every week over, I think it was half a year or something. That completely freaked me out. So I took my €600, I went off on holidays, had a blast. It was a very, very good holiday. I don't regret this debt, but it wasn't a good place probably for me to start my journey. I came home, I had payments, I can't remember exactly what the payments were, but I was supposed to pay it over about a half a year. I think the interest rate was somewhere in the realm of 25 to 28%. It was horrifically high. But because this lady kept calling to my door looking for money, that just completely freaked me out, and I paid it down really, really fast. I think I was earning like €300 a week at the time, and I was putting 200 because I had no other expenses just into paying this loan off, and I had it paid off in a matter of weeks. So that basically will just, give that little X, because I paid that off super quick. At the age of 21, this loan scared me off debt, to be completely honest with you. I didn't realize I never had debt before. This woman coming to the door and collecting money off me made it super personal, kind of super scary and loan sharky. So that scared me off until 21, when I started working in financial services. So at this point, my mindset started to change around debt. So my literal job was to help people secure debt. I would help people apply for mortgages. I would help people apply for loans, for credit cards, all those sorts of things, overdrafts. And it really took the scariness out of debt for me, which wasn't a good thing. I've always been an impulsive spender. I do talk about it a lot, but there is this drive within me that, and I think I'll speak about it in a different video at some point, but there is this drive within me that I want to spend money. It makes me feel a little bit of adrenaline. It makes me feel good, and it's an addictive feeling that I cannot stop. So bearing in mind, this job was my first kind of good job, and I thought I was earning a really good amount. And then I discovered the overdraft. So what an overdraft is, just in case anyone doesn't know, but I'm sure you do, is an overdraft is a facility on your bank account that allows you to go below zero. So most people, when they reach zero in their bank accounts, you can't spend anymore, your money's gone. But with an overdraft, it allows you to go into the minus numbers. And I got an overdraft of €500. The idea of an overdraft, how it should be used, is that it's used for emergencies, or, if there's maybe some variable expenses that go through your bank account that sometimes can go a couple of euro over. An overdraft will allow you to go into the minus. For me, it was up to minus €500. And with that, you then, when you get paid, it pays that back in. So obviously, if you're getting paid €2,000 a month, if your bank account was already at minus 500, once you get paid, your bank account will now be at 1,500, because it would deduct the overdraft from that money. So I hope that makes sense. So that was my first kind of run-in of a different debt. And I codded myself into believing that I wanted it as a safety net. Why a 21-year-old living at home with her parents needs a safety net? She doesn't. I had it as a just in case, but in actual fact, I wanted it because I wanted to have access to extra money before I got paid. So what this allowed me to do was, if I was getting paid on a Tuesday or Wednesday in work and I had no money left for the weekend before, I could go into my overdraft and still have a weekend out with my friends and just pay for it out of my next paycheck, which was massively detrimental to me. So I was going up to the limit of this every month for about 4 months before I said, you know what, this isn't a good idea, I should get rid of this. So Juliana decides to get rid of the overdraft. But how do you get rid of an overdraft? You have to just pay it back in full. So my next month's wages rolled around. I was up to minus 500. I think at the time I was paid something like 1,700 a month. So this got fully paid off with my paycheck. I was left with €1,200. But I was used to living on so much more than that because I always had access to this overdraft. So what I then did at the age of 21 again is, once I got rid of the overdraft, I thought, okay, well, I'll just get a loan to get a couple of odds and ends together that will then allow me to, get over the loss of the overdraft. So we go into my first bank loan at 21. At this point with this loan, I knew that I really wanted braces. So I'm writing keywords here to keep us on track. I had always wanted braces. My teeth were a little bit crooked. There was something I always wanted. And I decided while I was getting a loan to get over the loss of the overdraft, I would also get braces. So I think altogether, the loss of the overdraft plus the braces should have brought me out at a loan of about 4,500. I decided to round it up just in case anything happened. What do you think rounding up 4,500 looks like? If you said 5,000, you are correct, but in my mind you are wrong. I rounded it up to 8,000 euro just because I could. So I was out of control spending wise. I thought, if I'm going to get a loan, I may as well go hard or go home, get a new wardrobe, do all these things, and got myself into an 8,000 loan. So at this point, I think I had repayments of somewhere in the realm of 350 to 400 a month, which is a very significant portion of the money I was actually earning. So this loan, it wasn't something that I managed to clear off quickly. I always told myself, and this continues through every single loan I've ever had, I always told myself when I got a loan, I'd pay it down quicker. The thing is though, and as I've said in other videos before, I never wanted to lessen my lifestyle. So I always wanted to earn more money so that I'd have more expendable income. But the thing is that money was always spent, because the more money I earned, the more I would spend. So this repayment, this stuck around for a long time. And once this money was gone, I was left with this feeling of not having a safety net anymore. So this overdraft got me into the sensation that I had a safety net, even though that's not how I used it. It's supposed to be used as an emergency fund. I was just using it for everyday spending. The 8,000 loan satisfied that feeling of a safety net for me for a while until I'd spent it, which was only a matter of about a month, maybe 2 months. And at that point, I didn't want an overdraft because I'd seen so many people, customers that I was dealing with, struggling with it, that I thought this isn't a good thing, got rid of it. The loan was gone. I couldn't get another loan for a safety net. I'd never even heard of an emergency fund. And again, at age 21, about 2 months after getting the loan, I then opened up a credit card. And this was going to be my new safety net. And I thought because of the high interest rate on the credit card, which was 23% versus the overdraft, I think the overdraft was maybe 10. I can't even remember what the overdraft was. But I thought that this high interest rate would stop me from spending money on that credit card. And I think the limit that they gave me at the time was 1,500 starting. My idea was that I wouldn't use the credit card unless I really needed something, and it would allow me to give myself mini loans and pay them back quickly. So again, I have access to 1,500. At this point, I think it was September. We're coming up to Christmas season, and I did not want to slow down on anything I was doing in my life. I was going out every weekend, I was spending lots of money, I was constantly buying clothes. I had multiple deliveries coming in a week, and I decided to buy the Christmas presents on my credit card. So I can't remember how much that was, but it ran up the limit a good bit, because when you're not spending your own money, you tend to spend a lot more, or I definitely do anyway. That, if I have 400 euro in cash right now to spend on Christmas presents, I'll only spend 400 euro in cash on Christmas presents. But when I have access to a 1,500 credit card, I'll spend that on all of the Christmas presents. I was probably in about 1,000 to 1,500 of debt on my credit card. Obviously, this interest rate was quite high, so this was building up a lot of fees. And summer rolls around at age 22, and I want to go on holidays again, and I am already in debt. This loan is already here. I'm still making payments of 350 to 400 a month on this loan. I'm now in debt of 1,500 on this credit card, and my idea was that, well, I don't want to top up this loan because I don't want my repayments to go up. And I don't want to, this was a 5-year loan, I believe. So obviously I was only about 6 months, maybe a year into this, paying down this loan. I couldn't use any more money on my credit card because I'd already basically maxed that out. So I got a new loan to go on holiday. And I believe I took out about 4,000 euro because in my mind, if I'm going to get a loan for a holiday, I may as well get the amount I need to go, plus all the spending money I could potentially need, plus all the money to buy the outfits I wanted, rather than get the smallest amount possible and then have to save up for everything else. And I think I took this out over about 3 years, and I had about, I think it was probably around 250 to 300 a month in payments. So at this point you can see I'm probably paying about €700 a month to loans, plus whatever I'm paying into the credit card at 22 years of age, and I have nothing to show for it but straight teeth. I had a full wardrobe, I had gone on multiple holidays, but after my loans and my debt had been paid each month, I probably was left with about 900 to, that's sorry, if you include my bills, I was probably living on about €400 a month. Now, I still live with my parents, so I managed to get away with this. And I never really told anybody about how much debt I'd gotten myself into, because in my mind, I was an adult and I could make my own decisions, but I wasn't making very good adult-like decisions. Around age 23, I kind of realized that I was in a bad situation here with all of these payments. This credit card, I had paid it down multiple times, but then I'd use it to pay for something else. So I was just in like one of those doors, the revolving doors with this credit card. I had had the limit increased up to 5,000, and I was probably in about 4,500 of debt. Again, nothing to show for it, just shopping, just, nights out, just spending. And yeah, I was really in a bad situation. So at 23, I decided the best thing I could possibly do to make my life a little bit easier would be to consolidate all of these. So what I did was I combined the 8,000, the 5,000 and the 4,000. It was about 17,000 of debt. Sorry if that's wrong. I had about 17,000 worth of debt at this point. With this 17,000 worth of debt, my payments, I think I put it over 5 years. My payments were coming out to about 500 a month at this point. And yeah, I was like, this is my change. I closed down the credit card. There was some periods in here where I was topping up these loans to clear off the balance of my credit card, but my mistake was I never closed the credit card. So every time I used a new loan to clear the balance with the intention of just using the credit card for safety, I would run up the credit card limit again and end up I just kept running up that debt. So about 17,000, and I got rid of the credit card, and I kind of went through withdrawals, which is funny to say, but I was sick of the credit card, but I was so attached to this idea of having a safety net. And my idea of a safety net, I didn't have anything in my life that I needed to be responsible for. I still live with my parents. My dad always looked after my car, as in maintenance. I paid the tax and insurance and everything on it, but I really didn't have any, and I'm still on my parents' health insurance. So there was no emergency really that could happen in my life that I required a safety net for. If I had have had an emergency fund, so be it, but absolutely no reason for having a credit card or this much debt, because as you can see, we've gone up to €17,000. And again, the only thing I have to show for it is straight teeth and a few memories. So with the 17,000, at this point, I really, really wanted to go on holidays. So I was coming out of another bad relationship. I didn't want to spend the summer at home thinking about it. And I decided to take out another 3,000 loan to go on holidays again. And I think the payments on this were something like I've got that wrong, like 135-ish a month or something. So they're relatively small, but on top of my 500, we were nearly back to where I had been pre-consolidation of all of my debt. So we weren't doing great. We're up to 20,000 of debt now. And I'm going 24. So age 24, I had been doing quite well on these loans. So when I got this loan, I had told myself, as I did every time, that I would pay it down faster, that I would pay off so much more than I needed to. And we had hit the pandemic. So for the pandemic, for me, I was doing a lot of overtime in work. I earned a lot more money. I ended up managing to clear off this loan. And I was making really good headway on this loan right here. So At age 24, I was in the pandemic, wasn't doing anything, just earning a lot of money. I was still spending like a mental case. However, I did manage to get this loan cleared and this loan down to about 13,000. And I had a view that I was going to have it finished within another 2 years or so, because at this point I really saw an opportunity for myself to get rid of this debt, to not have to, have any money taken out of my wages straight away after getting paid, that my life is going to be so much better if I could just get rid of this 13,000. And it might sound like my mindset had changed enough for me to make that happen, but it really hadn't. So between 24 and 25, I moved out from my parents' house. So the progress I'd been making towards the 13,000 really slowed, because now I had rent and I had bills that I had to pay for. I had a lot of expenses going into the house, and on top of that, I had gotten another loan to buy a lot of stuff that I needed for the house. So at this point, I believe the loan I got was somewhere around 8,000. Oh no, you know what it was actually? I had gotten this down to a good amount. I ended up with 8,000 left in this. So that loan I had managed to get down between the ages of 24 and 25. I paid it down to 8,000. And then at that point, I got another 8,000 loan. So this is age 25. I've just moved out and I now have 16,000 worth of debt. This is when I really realized that I couldn't keep doing this. I had so much rent to pay, I had so many bills to pay, and I now had another loan that was about $450 a month. And I didn't really realize at the time of getting this that me moving out and having to pay this rent was going to seriously make an issue for me trying to pay this down quicker. I couldn't afford this payment, but I was paying it anyway. I was left really with no money to live on. So I think all in all, for food, for spending, for everything that I had for the month, I had I think it was about €50 a week that I had to live on after everything that I had. And it was nobody's fault but my own. That's what I'd done. So at the end of the year of me being 25, I then decided that I needed a new car. And it just gets worse. I know. Stick with me. I absolutely know some of these decisions are just, where was I going? And we haven't hit rock bottom yet, so I apologize in advance. So at this point, we'll say 25 again, I decided that I should buy a new car, and that would be the last debt that I would have until my mortgage. I wanted I haven't driven bangers for years. I've had okay cars. They weren't the nicest cars, but in my mind, I had a good job. I was living on my own. The only thing I didn't have was my car. So I decided to go get a 13,000 loan for a car. So 13 plus 16 brings us up to 29,000 of a loan. I didn't get a car. I cannot tell you where that money went. I don't know what I spent it on. I'm assuming shopping, probably some nights out, probably booked a holiday with it. But I had fully at one point intended to get a car, and then the car that I was looking at, the deal didn't go through like we had hoped it would, and yeah, I ended up with 29,000 of debt, and that was about age 26. So here is where we are now. Those payments were about €600 a month, and yeah, once I kind of spent all of the 13,000, around this time is where I actually started to have a harsh dose of reality that there was no way that I was going to be able to pay €600 a month forever and have, well, it's not that that would have been forever, but I had rent to pay, I had other things to do, and now so much of my expendable income was going to go to loans as well, which it always had, but this had hit a new low for me where nearly half the money that I was in debt for was for something that I didn't even have. I didn't even have a car to show for it. I still had the same car that I had when I got the loan, and I had just spent it like a, yeah, I won't say what I was, but delusional is a good word. The one saving grace in all of this was the pandemic. So the pandemic had curbed my social habits a lot, obviously, as it did for everybody, but I never regained the need to live the way that I'd lived before the pandemic, which has been a blessing and a curse in different ways. But in terms of the debt, which is what we're focusing on right now, it was an absolute blessing. So with this 600, I managed to put about an extra 400 a month to it and get this debt down quite quickly. So actually it was probably more than that, but anyway, either way, at about age 26, I had this loan paid down to, I think it was around 15,000. I had really been hitting it hard because I wanted it gone. And at this point, and don't worry, it's not bad news at this point, I managed to obtain a lump sum payment. And I cleared off the 15,000. So I had an unexpected end to this debt and this, this saga of events. But I did manage to get rid of the debt at 26. So a year onwards, I was debt-free. I've been debt-free really since I got rid of this. I did get a loan for a week, only because I was on holidays and I got stuck in a hotel that I could not deal with. But I had the money. I was getting a refund from the hotel that I was staying in. So when I moved to the next one, I just needed money to get me into the next hotel, and then I got refunded from the other hotel. So that worked out perfectly. That was only a loan for a week, and even that made me a bit sick. And then now all I have, and this may be a shock to you, is I have a credit card. I do not use it. In fact, I am terrified of it. This scares the living daylights out of me. I have a credit card purely for the need to rent a car if I go on holidays. That is the only reason I have a credit card. I have a limit of 1,500. I've had it for about 3 months. I have made one purchase on it just to activate it and have not used it again. I don't know if I'll ever be a credit card person, just because I do still have waves of impulsivity that hit me where I want to spend money, but cash stuffing has definitely helped me a lot with that. So I'm going to keep trying to stick with cash stuffing, stick with my small credit card limit, and yeah, we'll see how we get on. But that is the journey that I have been on with my debt. I know I said at the start that I had 1,000 per year of life. I actually didn't realize it was more. So I nearly had 30,000 of debt at 26, and it's all what can be classified as consumer debt, which is all that is literally just money for spending. And I didn't have a car. I didn't have any of the things that a lot of people would use consumer debt for. I didn't have luxury clothes even. I don't know how I managed to spend so much money on things like Boohoo and Pretty Little Thing, and a lot of the stuff was on self-care things. Like I'd get really expensive facials, I'd get expensive treatments done to myself, and yeah, no excuse for it really, but we live and we learn. So hopefully if you have experienced anything like this, it might help you to see that there is another side to it. I know the lump sum payment, I hope people don't get upset about this. I just wanted to be honest about, how we got through this. I do think that had this not happened, I would have paid off this debt, because I was making really good progress on it, and my lifestyle had changed to a point where I was able to do it, and I really wanted to get rid of that debt. Moving out is what made the biggest difference for me really, because once I had other responsibilities, I realized that this wasn't a responsibility that I did want to have or to continue. So yeah, so I don't know if anybody has any questions, please let me know. Happy to share. Apologies for my horrific handwriting. And yeah, I just really love watching the My Debt Confession videos, and I don't want my channel to ever paint a picture that I'm a little angel that's never had debt, because I've made some of probably the worst decisions of anybody that I know. Other people have some good reasons for going into debt, or like needed to go into debt to afford things, and I was just, yeah. I'm not going to call myself bad things on the internet, but yeah, you can see for yourself how I managed to, within the space of about 6 years, nearly ruin my life. But I'm better now, a bit better, and when I do go spending, I definitely don't do thousands worth of it. So anyway, thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and yeah, any questions, leave them in the comments, and I shall talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye.